So this will so this will be LinkedIn Live. It's actually not going to be terrible. It'll be a little bootleggy, but I think people will enjoy it. I mean, because they're going to be able to see the screen and see me, but it's not going to be all integrated under one thing. So there will be the Zoom chat because that was part of Eventbrite, and the people that signed up have the Zoom link. So we couldn't change it last minute to go all on LinkedIn Live. So those that let's say it's capped out on Zoom, they can watch on LinkedIn Live as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's like two options because I messed up. I need 2 cameras and 2 mics to go live on Zoom and to go live on LinkedIn at the same time because LinkedIn Live beta is not tied to Zoom. So therefore you need 2 outputs. I think I just said all that right. I'm not sure.
Weird.
So,
I also don't know.
Literally like cell phone in the movie theater stuff.
Yes, it is.
This is some LimeWire right here.
This is LimeWire. That's what I was thinking right there.
Yeah, bootleg, Aries, like back in the day. It's super back in the day.
Do you know, I don't know with Zoom, sometimes I have an issue because I don't know if I pay for it or not, but I get kicked off after an hour.
Not if you're not, only if you're hosting, Connor. So we're hosting the Zoom and we don't have the free version. You're going to be fine. But yeah, it's all about who's hosting.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How does my mic sound too? I just redid it.
It sounds good.
Sounds good.
By the way, I'm sitting in the audience instead of panel just so we can kind of test out audience functions before this all starts if we want to.
Now it looks like we are live on YouTube right now, Dirk. Do you know that?
Chris, did you see that?
Be careful.
I'm just saying, it just says live on YouTube, so I think we're live on your YouTube.
It's all right. I think our YouTube audience is not active, so I think.
Okay. Okay, there's not like 1,500 live. Okay.
No. Now if this was.
There's just one guy having a grand old time listening to us talk.
There might be at least one who's just like, "What am I watching? What is this?" I recognize those guys' faces though.
That's awesome.
Chris, did you see that we are live on YouTube? Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yep. So
this is awesome.
Yep.
So, you will share it on LinkedIn?
The YouTube link?
No, he's doing. He just said that he's going to stream on LinkedIn from his phone. So
exactly.
From my LinkedIn, yeah. So it'll be LinkedIn Live on my account.
And then Connor, I guess if you wanna do your own bootleg version, get it on yours too.
Well, because like for example,
Gary bootleg some TikTok real quick.
Yeah, dude. Dude, all day. Gary V did it. He did a sports card show 2 nights ago, which y'all need to go watch that, by the way.
What I would need though, I mean, I if I would have planned ahead, I need like I would pretty much need like a speaker. You wouldn't be able to hear you would only be able to hear what I'm saying. You wouldn't be able to hear what everyone else is saying. So I would need like a speaker that feeds into this or a second output or something to plug into my phone. Because then actually that would actually work really well.
Now I'm planning on not using a headset so that they can hear me, so that they can hear it.
My issue then would be my microphone would get feedback if I wasn't using a headset. You know what I mean?
Okay. I hope.
So what I
hope I'm not going to have issues with that then.
What I would have to do is I could take an output from my microphone and an output from the computer, and then have to feed that into my like down the road. That's actually a really good idea down the road for like what I could do with live, because I haven't gone live on TikTok in a while because I just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But that would be pretty cool.
What I would say is let's try it with the LinkedIn, and let's see what else we can do with Zoom. And then this is just like, let's say that this is just round 1. I would say that we're going to get this influencer group together again in the future. This is not a one and done, because this is the content from this is going to be out of this world. So we got to do it again.
So Sarah says, hello, I seem to join early. Want to know what I'm watching. Hope that's okay. We're just kind of talking right now. It starts at 11. So we're just checking mics and giving some feedback and stuff right now.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for jumping in.
How many people are here already?
I just saw that message pop up. I don't know if anyone else is in.
Oh, I can't see it. They must have only said it to the panelists.
This,
Yeah, you're
well,
not.
I would say
sorry,
I would be
Jason.
shocked. I can't say I'd be shocked, but the Zoom should be capped. There's no reason it shouldn't be capped. Plus, on top of that, that's the other reason to do LinkedIn Live, because if there's 100 max, then they can't watch it. You know, there's people that are gonna be left out. So then that's why the LinkedIn Live is there, just in case. So I think we'll filter out the, so.
Hey, Dirk, you know what I might do is I might still jump in with a panelist link closer to the time frame, and I'll try to manage the chat as best as I can.
Please, if you
So
could
that y'all
do
don't
that,
have to. Yeah.
oh my goodness, that would be great. I was kind of stressing. Okay.
Yeah, I'll manage. Let me manage the chat, and if anything is real urgent or whatever, maybe I'll drop it in the Q&A or something, and maybe you can see it. But yeah,
Okay.
even yesterday, trying to manage the Q&A and the chat at the same time, I couldn't do it. I was like, this is too much, and I had to pay attention really closely to what the panelists were saying, because I was like, well, they might answer some of these questions, and if I stop paying attention, I'm gonna miss it. So
There's Aaron.
oh, there she is. Hey, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
She's got the little connecting dots. She might not be able to hear. Oh, there we go.
Hey, Aaron, can you hear us?
Yeah, here, Dirk. I think I'll jump on that other. I'll use a panelist link here so I can start managing the chat for everybody.
Who else is on this? Good old Herb. Is that who we're waiting on?
Yeah. Good old Herb.
Hey, Jason has a face.
Hey, I do have a face.
Oh my God.
Sometimes. Again, I'm definitely going to turn off my video today and not do any talking, but it's
Other
good.
than, like you said, like the chat or something, like for chat.
Yeah,
questions.
I'll get involved in the chat so that you guys don't have to manage the chat completely. And I mean, I would say if you're not talking, I mean, maybe take a look at it and see if you want to add something in there. But for the most part, like I said, I'll do my best today to just manage the chat and let y'all do.
So look at the chat, not Q&A.
I would say I'll look at the chat, and if it's something that I want to drop over to you, I'll drop it in the Q&A, because the Q&A will light up for you, and then just kind of filter it.
Perfect.
So, hey, Aaron.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hi.
What's up?
Good.
How's it going?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
Aaron, I don't think we met either. I'm Connor, or I guess everyone calls me Coach only.
Hi.
Very, very cool. All right. Yeah. So it's just us here, and then looks like we've got one person in the audience right now that's early, but.
I'll probably go live on LinkedIn a couple minutes early.
Okay.
Just to make sure it's rolling and go from bootleg style.
I love that. I feel like you've got to find a way to really use that in your promotion, Chris. Just like, check out this bootleg copy of this secret influencer roundtable that I did.
Well, I like how like LinkedIn have these rules for live, like you can't use OBS and stuff, and so the result is we just end up bootleg streaming off of a phone.
Yeah, exactly.
It was no choice. So I'm doing it through Social Live, which a lot of people don't even know about yet. So it's like a bootleg of a bootleg. So to get it on your phone, I think Social Live does it, and then Switcher does it on your phone. That's the only two I found.
Did you ever get a hold of that company that was trying to let you stream on TikTok live from the computer? I never got that to work.
No, it looks super buggy and super scammy.
Yeah.
Like you have to give up your arm or something. Like, it's weird. So no, I didn't. So it's coming though, of course, at some point.
I've seen a lot of like gamers just having a setup where they have a phone behind their head and they have like Fortnite playing, but then I've seen them also that people have been getting banned because something will happen on like the video game or the screen, and LinkedIn or TikTok will think it's like violence or something like that, and it'll like flag their account and so that they can't go live and put them on like some sort of ban.
Video games aren't violent. Come on.
Yeah, if the LinkedIn Live wasn't going to work, I was just going to throw TikTok on there and start streaming on there. So
there you go.
Never know. I need to get about 4 more devices and just have it all like surrounding me like a panoramic.
You need a studio, man.
Yeah, I know, dude. It's bad. I'm so terrible at that.
Someday.
I like being just like dirt, dude. I just like I'm in my basement with no studio, like, you know. Everyone's like, you need to upgrade. I'll never forget in 2016 when I was streaming on Twitch and they sent me this mic because they were like, look, we've been listening for 3 months. You're great and all, but we can't even hear you. And they're like, please use this mic. Like this guy sent it to me from like Massachusetts or something. And I'm still using it to today. So it's funny.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I hate when people just send me like free stuff. It's terrible.
Eric, where are you calling in from today?
New York. I am at the Cheddar office right now in a silent booth.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Connor, remind me. Go ahead, Aaron.
I was like, it's just like a makeshift area. So we get calls, video calls, all that stuff. Pretty much every single interview or video call I've done has been like in this booth.
Nice.
A lot of history. That's funny.
I love it. Connor, remind me where you're calling in from.
I'm just at the home studio right now. I took the morning.
What state? Like where are you?
Oh, Kansas City.
Okay, nice.
So I do. I work. My work schedule is all over the place, but usually I work 3 days a week in Kansas City and 1 day a week in Ottawa, Kansas. And then the rest of the time I just float around and do my thing.
I think you might be the only like Kansas influencer ever.
We finally had an audience to crack out of the middle of nowhere from.
Me and Con, I represent Kentucky, and he's got Kansas. So
you're definitely the only one in Kentucky.
I'm definitely
no doubt about that at all. Aaron, I think you got a little bit of competition in New York.
I know. Well, not as much as you would think, surprisingly.
That's true especially for esports. I would say, I think you're probably dominating that space up there for esports. But
I mean, in terms of New York, it's still growing. I mean, we have Ambox, which was just made here, and then Chris Puckett just came over here. Golden Boy reps New York heavily and is still here, but in terms of like the other broadcasters, they are all pretty much LA based.
Okay. I'd say the only other real big one that I can think of out of New York, I mean, obviously Gary V is huge, but he's not esports. But he's in New York, isn't he?
Yeah, he's here.
That's what I thought. So that's awesome. How do you like that? How do you like New York?
I love it. It's going on 6 years since I've been here, living here. But then also I was raised up in this tri-state area over here. And so New York has always been my second home because my mom's from New York. So I've always wanted to live here.
There you go. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, but I spent some time in Kentucky too. It's not that bad.
The wrong team, though. You got the wrong team, though.
What team? The team that's winning? The team that has the most championships?
We could have a whole lot
I don't
of on UVL versus UK. It's brutal. It's brutal out here. So that's awesome.
I love this. I love it.
We could, I think, we have a call coming up, and we're just going to be UVL UK trash talk the whole time. So.
Oh man, I'm ready for it.
That's great. Now, honestly, both clubs have been weird this year. It's just been really frustrating. So, up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So I got about 10 more minutes. Chris, do you want any kind of checks that we want to do as far as on your end, equipment, sound, anything?
I think we're good. And the main thing was obviously, well, we all look good, sound good. Trying to find Herb. See where he is.
I mean, I guess I could drive down to Houston. It's only 2 hours from now. And
Yeah, just go ahead.
This
You'll
thing,
get
but
there in time. Yeah,
I'll go knock on his door.
that's funny. No, the last check will be LinkedIn Live. I'm just gonna hit this little red button over here, and I've only done it once on my phone, so we'll see. There's a lot of let's sees.
A lot of let's see.
Hey, they've all been check marked so far, so
That's right.
you know.
Well, and Aaron, you weren't here just yet, but I was saying I hope that this is just the first time that we get all of y'all together, because I think that this roundtable is going to be incredible, and I love that I'm not hosting it and let Chris do everything. But I think I'd say let's try a few things, and then let's do it again. Let's do it again in the future, because you guys are this is like the powerhouse of all groups here.
And Chris Smith was going to be on this, but it's the time zone that messed up. So he would like to get involved at some point, but it was going to be 4 a.m. for him. So
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Yeah.
We could try it. We could try to do sometime like late afternoon U.S. time. That would be like kind of early morning for him, and then we can get everybody in. And I'm sure there's a few others out there that would be awesome to get together, but I think that the content from this, you guys are going to be able to reuse it for a long time.
Yeah. Like 3 quarters, like 9 months. All right.
I love it. Alrighty. I'm going to go.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I said I'm gonna go dark here in a minute, and I'll be on chat duty, because definitely I believe that the chat's gonna be.
It better be fire. Yeah, it better be fire. I would be mad. And then I'm gonna attempt to try to look at LinkedIn Live too. So I have a lot of stuff happening. But I wanted, because I'm sure questions will come in over there, so I'll be doing that. But yeah, I'll look at Q&A on Zoom for stuff on here and be perfect.
Cool. Alrighty. Going dark. Chris, I leave everything to you.
Awesome.
It's really nice to meet you, Connor. You, Aaron. Seriously.
Yeah, nice meeting you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, finally that Jason guy's gone. Jeez.
I know. Yeah,
I know.
No. Chris, are you in contact with Herb?
Not heard anything. Give me a second.
What he thinks because he works for a franchise now, he's all cool and can just show up
Yeah,
late and
I know.
stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's funny. Then yeah, as far as the questions, shot over a few of those, a couple days ago. Or I'm sorry, it was actually yesterday. So we'll try to go through those as much as we can, but then also definitely want to get into chat, so we may not get to all of them. But get your all's
Yeah, that's
insight.
fine.
Okay. Yeah. Then again, the very first one is after all was 1 minute intros is what is your definition of an esports influencer? And you guys are more than welcome to take that however you want and go down whatever road. So definitely open for what you guys want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, super laid back, just very conversational, and however you guys want to kind of drive the conversation. So
Yeah, love it.
okay. And if you do see a question in chat or something, feel free to hey, Joe's asking about this. I'd like to answer that or something, but I don't want to put it, on you guys to focus on chat. If not,
Okay. I'm curious, Aaron, before we go live, how do you guys at Cheddar find, how do you guys track down who you interview and the influencers and people that you talk to?
I mean, it varies different ways. We get a lot of submissions. We have relationships with pretty much a lot of the organizations. And then we also do our research and look around, whether it's via social media, LinkedIn, or other people that do send recommendations in. But we also have an email that people can email us with pitches or anything. But then the reviewing process is a whole different thing. So, but anyone can send pitches in, honestly. And then our EP, line producer, myself, we go through all the submissions and then determine what makes sense.
So you're not just sliding into DMs on Instagram?
No, unless there's someone I have to get in touch with specifically, because sometimes it's quicker for me to get in touch with someone via Twitter DM or IG than email. So, whether it's LinkedIn, email, Twitter, IG, as long as I get a hold of the person, that's all that matters.
Fair enough.
all right, guys, we're gonna go on LinkedIn here just to get that rolling. Herb has the stuff. I think he's popping in here in a second. So a little pre-game action on LinkedIn.
When I used to sell cars for a pregame for Saturdays, we would play Red Bull beer pong. Can we do that virtually?
Not sure. Not sure. Okay, so all right. So this is the version of bootleg LinkedIn Live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live, looks like, on LinkedIn. Give us thumbs up. Let us know that LinkedIn Live is good. The Zoom link is rolling. We're going to get officially started here in just a minute, but we're just testing some things to make sure we're good. So if the audio is good, please let us know. It's one of the first, well, really the second time we've went live on a mobile device on LinkedIn. So let us know that is good.
Yeah, looks good. I'm on it.
And now the issue is going to be, okay, that's fine. Awesome. Thanks for letting us know on LinkedIn. Thanks for being with us. There's some in the Zoom link as well that we put out there the last couple of days, last week or so. So thanks for being on the Zoom chat. We're going to get started in just a minute. Getting everybody up and rolling here. Hope everyone's having a good day. Real quick, Connor, Aaron, where are you guys coming from?
I am here in the Big Old Apple, New York City, in an actually soundproof booth right now. So it's quite nice over here. It's getting warmer.
Nice.
I am coming out of Kansas City, well, kind of suburb of Kansas City, straight out of my basement. So.
Gotcha. Same with me. Pretty close, Connor, in Kentucky. So represent Kansas, Kentucky.
Good old Midwest.
All right, a couple more things before we get rolling here. Okay, gotcha. Herb May's joining us. He will be joining us momentarily. Looks like has a different link. He's working that stuff out right now. So we'll let him work things through. So appreciate. Here he comes. We'll let him pop in here for just a second.
Right in the nick of time.
There he is.
On the money.
Awesome. Well, cool. Hey, we're all here. We've got Zoom chat fired up. What's going on with people in Zoom chat? We've got LinkedIn Live on fire too, bootleg style, social live on my mobile device. So I think we're up and rolling on both platforms. This is going to be a lot of fun. I want to respect everyone's time. And I want to thank you guys, the panelists, for being here for about an hour. I know the busy lifestyle of esports and everything you guys are doing in the space. Appreciate the time you all have dedicated to this. Welcome to Esports Bizz, a BizzTalk virtual event. This is the second of 3 events this week. The topic of discussion for today is influencers in esports. Does it really matter? And as being respectful for time and things like that, I want to go ahead and jump right in. And we're going to do just about a 1 to 2 minute introductions, and we're going to go from there. I'm Chris Reed, founder of Level Up Experience. And I'm going to pass it on over to whoever would like to get started. Actually, let's do this. Let's start with Aaron. If you just talk a little bit about yourself and what you're currently doing in esports.
Yeah, so my name is Aaron Simon. I am a host for Cheddar Esports, and I work on the broadcast media side. Aside from Cheddar Esports, I have done some competitive esports broadcasts. I've done content in media. I've been doing media work for about 10 years in traditional sports, music, and esports. So taking all those experiences and just bringing them to the table for this industry.
Very cool. Thank you. Herb, you want to jump in?
Thanks, Chris. I'm Herb May. I'm the Director of Corporate Partnerships for the Houston Outlaws. The only reason you're not seeing me in a t-shirt and a backwards hat today is because we're onboarding a new client, which I can't disclose quite yet, but a busy day here. I've started my career at the NFL and did that for about 2.5 years. I was doing Super Bowl tickets and corporate hospitality. Moved on to Access Replay down in Atlanta, Georgia, then went to Roundhill Investments up in New York City, and recently joined the Houston Outlaws, focusing on partnerships, sponsorships, and team activations. I guess I'm going on like 1.5 months here. So it's been a fun year in esports and gaming, and excited to be here today.
Appreciate it, man. Connor?
Yeah, my name is Connor Olney. Everyone calls me Coach or Coach Olney, though. My esports journey began back in like 2013. I was trying to play competitive Call of Duty. Figured out I wasn't going to go pro, so I started an esports program at the University of Iowa. From there, I started hosting tournaments at colleges across the country. Opened up a training facility in Iowa City for esports teams to be able to practice together. From there, I was picked up to start the esports program at Ottawa University and joined as their first head coach, hence where my name Coach Olney comes from. And it was after that job that I really got active on social media, started sharing my insights into esports and college esports. Kind of blew up on TikTok. That was how most people found me. I do YouTube as well. And since then, this year, I've transitioned to an executive role at the University of Iowa. So I just oversee the esports program now and kind of passed off the day-to-day. And I took a job at the Varsity Esports Foundation as well. working with them to develop education around and professional development around esports, particularly at the high school and college level. Yeah, that was my best like 30-second intro I've ever done. I think I'm getting better at it.
Awesome.
Nice work, coach.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Well, guys, thank you all very much for that intro. Again, a lot to get to, so we're going to jump right into this. We're going to start big picture question, and I want you guys to drive however you want to drive with this question. It's totally up to you how you want to tackle this. But first question is this: how would you define an influencer in esports? Anybody's welcome to jump in.
Talk to both of these two. I'm far from it.
I think, I think simply put, it's someone that uses their voice and audience to spread awareness around esports and to help grow the industry. That's how I would define it.
Aaron?
I would define it as, well, so I'll add on to that. I'm actually going to take a different route. I think that it is someone who not only utilizes their voice and their platform, but also there's different levels to that influence, right? There are those who are influencing the masses, and then there's also people that influence the influencers within the industry. So it's those who are able to impact and utilize their voice and platform to not only help, I guess, I don't want to say help, but to impact their fans and followers, but also there are people who are influencers in the sense that they are helping to grow and shape the esports industry as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think anyone that's pushing the mission of esports, anyone can influence and help out within the industry. You don't have to just have a bunch of followers on social media.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I want to shift it a little bit to your all story, because looking at who's here right now, whether, you guys, because, everyone's busy, every day is like something new, and it's just high energy in the space. But I just wanted to say on behalf of a lot of people that have taken in a lot of your all's content, that you all have made a huge impact on a lot of different people. Me kind of looking from the outside, looking at what you all have done. I guess talk a little bit about your why in the space. Like why, I mean, the amount of content that you three have put together over the last couple of months, last years plus, I mean, it's really incredible. And it has had an influence in the conversations that people have had around it. So could you kind of take that initial question we took and then transition it to yourself and kind of the story that you have?
Yeah, I can start.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much everything I've done has been trying to help kids that reminded me of myself when I was in high school. A lot of what and then the reason I work with high school and college students and try to educate that field is a lot of kids feel out of place in high school when they're not traditional athletes and they don't have a traditional route, and they think they like video games, but they don't really have anyone in their corner. A lot of parents tell them to get off of it. Teachers don't support it. No one really tells them they have a future, and that can be really harmful to a kid, especially a younger kid. And so that's initially why I started on social media, to share the message of, hey, you can get scholarships for esports. You can join a high school esports club now. I wanted to show kids that there's ways for them to get involved, because through that inclusion I mean, you can make so many kids have a lot better time, not only in high school, but in life, and potentially go down a career path that they didn't even know existed. It's crazy. Like high school esports for me is a really big thing. And that's why I got involved with the Varsity Esports Foundation. When you start a high school esports club, 68% of those students weren't involved in anything at their high school before that. Once they joined, GPA went up an average of 1.2 for the clubs that were sampled. Attendance went up 12% at school. A lot of high-risk students started getting excited about it. And that's a real impact that you can see, and that really motivates me to get those messages from kids that say, because of me, they started a club or they got involved, or like that's why I do it, and that's what really motivates me every day.
For me, the reason why I put the content out that I do is because there's so many non-endemic brands and people within this space that want to learn. And I'm a firm believer that the best way that the esports industry and the gaming industry are going to continue to grow is by having diverse perspectives, stories, and also understanding some of the hurdles and obstacles and problems that we have in this industry. We can't sweep it under the rug. We have to address it head on. So a lot of the content that I put out is, there are a lot of people that are interested in getting into the scene in some ways, but they don't know where to start. So I try to showcase, whether it's multiple companies or individuals, and highlighting that so that they could figure out what they want to support, where they want to go, or just what organization they want to get involved in. But then also utilize my platform to discuss things like the fact that we still have issues of racism, sexism, toxicity, and other problems, crunch time. And I think it's important to speak on these things because we ourselves have to hold those in the industry accountable for those things, as well as opening up the doors, opening up the floodgates so people who want to contribute in the most genuine and positive way can come in and not feel like this industry is trying to shut them out or gatekeep, because we need everyone in order to just make this bigger and better moving forward.
My why is, I guess how I started was a little bit more out of spite, if you can believe it. When I was with the NFL, it was my idea to go, because I was selling Super Bowl tickets and doing corporate hospitality for about 3.5 years for 3 straight Super Bowls. And what I wanted to do was literally go into US Bank Stadium and Mercedes-Benz, because that's where I had 2 longer stints selling. And I wanted to go in and sell seat by seat, because that's what we did. We sold guaranteed seats to the Super Bowl at my first job, On Location Experiences. I wanted to go in with a camera, be like, this is where you're sitting, this is the price, this is the view you have at the Super Bowl, and give people a visual. I think people are lazy and nobody wants to cold call from me anymore. And it was really tough to get past the NFL Shield. And so it just never got done. And honestly, I was told that people wouldn't think it would work. So my time with the NFL ended, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna prove to people that, you know, content is the way to go here, because I really wanted to break into esports and gaming. And it was really my moment. I had 2 real switches. It was one was my first call with Joanna Ferries. Once she left the NFL, we had a 15-minute call set up that went for about 45 minutes. And I'll never forget the words that she said to me. She said she wanted, and I say it all the time, she said she was leaving the NFL in a really, really attractive seat to go do this thing called Call of Duty. And she said she wanted to make an immediate impact while learning at an incredibly high clip. And I found that to be, I'll never forget it. And I was like, that's really what, as someone who's 26, that's something that I really, really want to continue to do. The NFL will always be a passion of mine. Football will always be a passion of mine. But really, it was the moment. It was 2 playoff series ago, Rams and Saints, the controversial pass interference call, where I was like, you know, football will always be there for me, but football's not advancing. There's no innovation in football, really. Like, you can look at the XFL right now, but football will always be football. Nothing about it is really truly going to change. And you know, I could sell tickets for the rest of my life if I wanted to, but I really wanted to get into something more innovative. So it was that moment where I was like, you know what, I need to get into something that I can make an impact. I can continue to learn. I can challenge myself. I can take myself out of my comfort zone. And, you know, honestly, it was like, I wish I had more exposure to gaming. I mean, I always played growing up, but it was never something I considered to be a professional career, because I was playing football as well. So, you know, there was a couple different moments of why, but from a content standpoint, content was initially out of spite.
Gotcha. But, you know, it's interesting. The common denominator in all this is your story. There's so many different stories, and it's awesome to hear the different stories that people come from, the different backgrounds and industries, you know, that it's really putting in the infrastructure and the structure of esports. It really is fascinating, because we've all have different timing when we've gotten in, things like that. It could be 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, 15 years, 6 months. And the thing is, the community is very open. You know, in conversations, whether it's an investor or startup, whatever, it's like a lot of times the first conversation is like, oh, I was a gamer growing up. And it's like instant connection. Like, everything they say after, it's like, boom, there's a connection there. So that's what's fascinating about the industry. This is how I see it. And then I love the different stories, specifically from you guys, where you come from. And then you're bringing that skill set from other industries, right? And then, again, building the infrastructure. So I appreciate you guys sharing that. A little bit of a shift. How has traditional influencers or pop culture had an effect on the esports industry? And then how do you see it integrating in the future? And I'd like to start with Aaron. Aaron, you have interviewed Snoop Dogg, Offset, Gary Vee recently. And, you know, so I think you have I would say the fast track to the insight here.
Aaron's probably on the best interview of anyone we've ever seen. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to make my way around the esports interviews. But the crazy thing is, right, we look at it as if pop culture and just the traditional influencers and traditional people are just immersing themselves in the scene. But to be honest, that's actually not true. There's been people who've been involved in the esports scene well before the mainstream media and mainstream companies got involved. I mean, even people like Lupe Fiasco and stuff like that. And hip hop has always had a synonymous relationship with gaming. And there's certain components of pop culture that have always been synonymous with gaming and competitive gaming. It's just now it's on a bigger pedestal and people are paying attention to it because obviously when they see dollar signs, more people want to get involved and find a way to get, you know, either a piece of the pie or involved in some way for good or for worse. That's just like with any industry. We're seeing that the same way that hip hop. And it's funny because I always tell people hip hop and esports and gaming are very much, they come up the same. They started with grassroots. They started with small communities, and those communities built it up. And when certain demographics or certain areas of the industry were like, oh, it's bad for you, it's not good. Remember back in the day, they said gaming is a waste of time, all that stuff. But then it became a change where it became the popular thing. It became pop culture, the same way that we're seeing esports becoming the thing, and it's becoming the top thing in pop culture. What I would just say is that we're seeing a shift because the stigma of being a gamer isn't the same as it used to be. You know, I used to hide the fact that I played video games as a woman. Now it's like the cool thing. And on top of that, so many influencers from pop culture are now investing, getting involved, highlighting their passion for gaming, which is changing the perspective of gaming, and which is ultimately changing the perspective of esports, the prize pools, the extensive broadcast. I mean, sometimes like esports competitions, some of them are run better than the actual traditional sports competitions. And so just the quality and the growth of the community is what is grabbing the attention and is grabbing the respect of others, either within pop culture, non-endemic brands, or mainstream. And just like most industries that start from the grassroots and have such an avid fan base, especially from the youth, eventually it's like one of those things where you gotta get on board or you're going to be left behind. And a lot of people are starting to get on board with esports because they see that everyone is passionate about this scene and it's growing and it's getting bigger and bigger. So that's why I guess that's the point that I would mention, especially with the pop culture integration, because every single pop culture person I've interviewed, they've said that they've been playing video games since they were kids. And especially, you know, if we're going to talk about the socioeconomic disparities or even ethnic disparities, right? A lot of Black children, and especially from inner cities or just anyone from inner cities, video games are one of those things that kept kids out of the streets. So it was either athletic scholarships, academic scholarships, they had jobs, or they played video games, and that's what helped them either transcend in their career or stay away from trouble. And video games have always been instrumental in the youth's lives, whether from a social component, whether it's from to keep them out and keep them on the right track, or just anything like that. So that's a common denominator we're seeing. But like I said, pop culture has been a part of esports and it has been part of gaming. It's just people are paying attention to this aspect and are respecting it a lot more now.
Connor, Herb?
Yeah, that's very hard to follow up. I agree with all of that. No, Aaron killed it. I think like exactly what she said, that there was a recent study that said 9 out of 10 kids in high school play video games. And I don't think that's a new thing. I think everyone did, but what pop culture did and what the companies that brought in these original icons and FaZe obviously comes to mind is pushing the culture. What they did right was they pitched these pop and hip hop artists properly on what esports is. And dude, you play video games. Yeah, I play video games. Okay. Like we need to show kids that everyone is doing this because it was just so hidden before that. And then once we get the first original, you know, crossovers, then it just blew up and everyone realized it's okay to talk about this. Like this is cool. And now, like Aaron said, it's culture now. It's cool. And that's all due to the influence that these mainstream people have, or it's like, you know, Offset and signing him to FaZe. Like that's so huge for so many kids. Like, because now those kids can not only feel comfortable, but it's cool for them to game and join an esports team and stuff like that. Yeah, that was everything. To the grassroots will always be there, and I love the grassroots. But what they did was really mainstream, you know, attention to what we got going on, which is so cool.
Herb?
Yeah, and I agree obviously with everything that's been said. I think from my standpoint now working with an organization, I think you know, now the influencers are coming to us a little bit, right? I mean, we have a lot of people in our communities who want to engage. You know, this is the first time Houston is playing in its home city in front of the, you know, crazy fan base that we already have. And it's funny. It's almost like the fans are a little indifferent. Like when Bun B came to the homestand, man, it was like unbelievable to have him there. And it was so cool to have his support, and for him to stop in and be there for us. But at the end of the day, like these fans would have shown up either way, which I think is a real reason why influencers want to get involved. Influencers want to be a part of this. They're not here to take over. They're here to join something that's actually fun. You know, this isn't like and this isn't always a paid opportunity. You know, Offset has actual joy in his face when he's interacting with this stuff. So I think, you know, from an influencer standpoint, you know, influencers have been around for a while, right? But I think there's a big stigma right now about whether what they're doing is actually authentic when it comes to other things, whether products are healthy or whether, you know, whether you actually care about, whether you actually care about like where your money's invested. And then I don't know, I'm trying to think of like random activations that have been done recently. But now with this space, gaming being, you know, gamers being the new age rock star, I mean, guys are chomping at the bit to get involved here because they want to get involved in something that they can really sink their teeth into in an authentic way. I mean, what better way to, you know, invest your own capital while also being able to integrate authentically by playing video games with other influencers, you know, kids in need. It's just it really kind of rounds out what I think it means to be a true influencer in a year of 2020, where the influencer industry, obviously, what was the stat was put out the other day? We're looking at like 15 billion at some point. How much of that is actually authentic influence? I think there's nothing but authentic influence when talking about gaming.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that. You killed it right there. A lot of the influencers that we see from like pop culture and stuff, not only it's like the opposite. They're not getting paid this much for an Instagram post. Instead, they're like buying into the orgs and like investing into their mission and what it's completely flipped the script, which is amazing because that's 100%. It's authentic and they see the value in it.
Yeah, and since you made that point, I'd like to transition to another question. Whether it's you're looking at teams and players that are now looking at equity in a team, for example, I've had that long-term perspective. I guess what is your take? Maybe on the team side, do you like that model? Like maybe we'll start with Herb, like that model of players having equity in the team and that having a longer term perspective and a longer term runway versus just cash compensation. Any thoughts on that, Herb?
You know, I think you have to do it. We're in this. I think there was a time in 2018, 2019 for that, right? Where that was a valuable compensation. Now, you know, teams were operating at an incredibly high clip, right? And we have expenses, and we got teams that need to go across the country, and they need to go international, and they need to play in front of a lot of people, and we need to pay their expenses. So, you know, cash is always king and will be, and I think that's the way you'll continue to see it, kind of over the next 5 years. However, you know, if there was an opportunity to work with someone here in Houston, that was someone who was really willing to give a lot of their time, because I also understand that a lot of people are busy, right? And from an influencer standpoint, I'm never want to be someone who's like, you know, in someone's face asking them to do someone all the time. I want someone to be here because they want to be here. In that sense, sure. But you know, right now, I think esports and gaming from a team standpoint, and, you know, obviously we're owned by a public company, so it's a little different for us. We've got different conversations going on. But, you know, if you're a smaller organization out there, you know, I think cash becomes king in 2020 to 2021. At least the shift is going to go that way. It's important. You know, these guys are working really, really hard, and to get from point A to point B to play in a match that's going to get you that return on investment, at the end of the day, it costs money.
Yeah, I also think that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I also think that it's also about evaluating the situation and evaluating the player themselves. I mean, for example, we have T1 with Faker. Faker is the Michael Jordan of League of Legends competitive esports. And with that, though, he's essentially transcended and uplifted this team, and especially within the market that they're in, and especially with League of Legends being prominent within the Asia market, you know, that value makes sense. And the same way that we see in traditional sports, right? Like, there are going to be some individuals that are very, very special, that are very unique, that transcend, that are the best of the best, that also have such a great understanding of the game and may be able to contribute with business or team. And having that equity component to keep them there for the long run, I think makes sense. But ultimately, we're going to see a lot more of cash being the main component. I think that when it comes to equity, it just has to be one of those unique individuals that the company feels like that individual really helped us get to where we are, or that individual transcended esports as a whole, the same way that we've seen the likes of Michael Jordan, the NBA, even LeBron James, and, you know, and Michael Jordan owning the Hornets. So I think we're going to see that in esports, but it's not going to be as frequent or as often as we see in terms of just giving them cash and kind of having that be the reward.
Yeah, I think that you would, I mean, I don't own an org, but if I did, and what I would advise is, like, I would never use equity as leverage when negotiating with a player or influencer. It needs to be authentic. And if you're trying to buy them into the brand initially, that sends red flags on both parties, I think, because for a lot of different reasons. If someone reached out to me and said, I want to give you equity to join this brand to push this movement or something, that makes me think like that there's problems there. And like how, like, it's just such a big commitment that seems like a terrible way to run it. I think Aaron's right. The only way a company or it should really think about giving out equity is if it's been someone that's grown with them for a long time, that there's established relationships and is always going to want to be a part of it. And at that point, you can have that talk. But when you're signing players and influencers, it's so volatile and you never know what's going to happen. Like, it's not, I don't think it'd be good business to give out equity right now. It doesn't really make sense.
Can you guys talk about the difference between a player and an influencer, and the dichotomy there, or a player is an influencer, or, you know, and that line that divides or not? I think it's a very interesting conversation because it kind of bleeds over in some situations. So what do y'all think about that?
I'll start with this one just because, you know, I've got 11 of them across the hall, and, you know, we're onboarding a new sponsor today. And right now, and to clarify, Chris, you're asking like a professional player and in professional gamer, correct? Not just like a professional athlete.
Correct.
Yeah. So you know, I think it's all certainly both right now. I think one thing that I'm focused on here with the Outlaws is that I no longer want to work. I'm not trying to force things on my players. I certainly don't want that for them. And I don't want that for me, because that's a tougher sell for me, and that's a tougher sell for them to go ahead and use it. I made a point to come in here in my first month and a half here to go sit with players and to sit with our GM and be like, what do these guys want? Right? What are these guys willing to work with? What excites them? You know, what, like a meeting we have today, what's going to get the players here early because they're excited about the product that we're bringing them, right? So I think at the end of the day, from a professional gaming standpoint, you have to be authentic to what is going to help not only them just be excited about what they're doing, but also try and improve their performance. The product we're working with today is about improving performance. So I really think from that standpoint it just has to be authentic from a professional standpoint. And then, you know, Aaron's probably a lot smarter than me on this, but when it comes to like an influencer, standpoint, it's tough for me to know like how many guys actually love G Fuel. Not saying it's a bad product, right? But G Fuel is doing outrageous, you know, amounts of influencer deals and marketing deals. And it's like, you know, is it at that point kind of goes back to the thing I said early, do guys actually love drinking that product? Is it good for you? Like, I don't know. I think it's a great product. I do really enjoy it. But, you know, I think it's sometimes influencers themselves, if you're dedicated to be an influencer, you have a larger, even broader following that makes your value less more. Like our top player, one of our best players, Shane, or Raucus, as some guys know him. I mean, he has a really finite following in Overwatch, and he had some relationships with FaZe. He's a really finite, like, awesome following, and we want to bring him a product and a partnership that he is like juiced to go ahead and use. And even if there was money involved, he'd be willing to go ahead and pick it up and use it. So that's kind of the way I think about it from a professional to an influencer standpoint.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say that I think the main difference in my head is who is paying your bills for the majority of it. So like when you're a signed player and you've got salary or you've got money and you're good, influencing becomes different because then you can be a lot more selective. You don't really stress out as much about the numbers and everything. You know that you have food on your table and your bills are paid. But if you're just an influencer and your only sense of income is off of views and sponsorships, that kind of turns the table because now you're fighting for food and people take deals maybe they shouldn't, and people it becomes a lot more stressful. So I think in my head that's like the main difference is if you need the sponsorships and the money to live, or are you good and you're just doing that because you're growing your audience and because you believe in the product. That's the big difference for me.
So whether you're an influencer or you are a player, you are influencing, right? And I think that's one of the things that I've noticed is that there's not really, I mean, this is something that we see with traditional athletes, the same thing we're seeing with esports athletes, like especially when it comes to the players, there's not this essential focus on developing a brand or narrative for them that if they retire or want to move on to do things that will allow them to continue to either be involved within the esports team in some capacity. I think that sometimes that, there's pros and cons, especially with being influencers. With that influence, if you're just an influencer, right, your career or your work may be driven by working with brands or content or just having to be catered towards that, right? But then also there's a con to players where it's like you're so focused on competition that you're not focusing on building your brand, and you're not focused on establishing a narrative that will allow you to continue to generate revenue or have revenue come in easily that you don't have to focus in on in order and to be able to kind of keep your career and also your finances, even after when you're done being a pro player, having that continuously going. I think that, especially when it comes to influence, there's so many different levels of influence. Like I mentioned before, you could be an influencer who may not be the face of a team or the face of an organization or league, but you are influencing those who are the faces. You also can be someone who's the face of an established league, but you may not be the best player, but you have charisma and you have a selling point, a selling narrative that's helping that specific league or team continue to brand itself, continue to tell the important stories and bring the fans and have the fans fall in love with the players. And so, or even from a media perspective, right? I'm an influencer in my own right. And even with that, there's things I have to keep in mind, especially with developing my brand, because where do I want to go next? I think the one thing in esports is that we're starting to see that a lot of these players are influencers. There are mistakes in things, whether it's contractually, whether it's not developing their brand, or that they're focusing so much on competition. I think we're starting to see a change in that. And I think that everyone I think doesn't realize that if you are a face-fronting personality or face-fronting athlete, if you're in front of a camera, if you are the face of a team or you're the CEO, you yourself are an influencer. And it's just about figuring out what do you want to be known for? How do you establish that brand? How do you establish that influence to continue working in this space and to continue to build within esports? I just hope that more players realize that, even though they have a lot of followings and everything like that, but having a lot of followers does not mean that your influence is going to be continue on moving forward. There's so many known rappers and athletes that have 1 million followers, but their influence is still not as impactful as when they were in their prime in their career. So hopefully we'll start to see a lot of the pro athletes and those who are within this space find a way to continue to build their brand, even though they're competing at a high level, and figure out what's that narrative and direction that they want to take in order to continue to not only grow themselves, but as they grow and they have their influence, it will also help the industry grow too.
The last thing on the team side, obviously you have your players, right? But then what's also been talked about is stream teams. So individuals to help build the brand of the org itself. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, you've already touched base on it a little bit, but just kind of hone in on that if you guys would.
For us, I think it's something. So we have, we outsource our content. We don't really I mean, I guess you can call it outsourced, but we call it our marketing arm out of Chicago, and they do a fabulous job with the content that we create. And what we're really focused on is continuing to create unique content with influencers that or some directly pay for as Outlaws. Violet, as she goes by, is this awesome streamer who is just dedicated to everything we do in Houston and has been with us since day one. And she has a pretty finite following, but one that's really passionate to Houston and passionate to Overwatch. And those are the type of people that we're interested in working with. She was in the front row of the homestand for the entire weekend. She could barely speak because she was screaming so loud, and it's like that. And we want to create content around her because the guys on stage obviously have their followings, but we want to create stories in the crowd as well. And with our marketing arm out of Chicago that we use, they're really dedicated to doing that as well. So working with influencers outside of the organization, in my personal opinion, and I know my team here agrees, is going to be crucial for us as we start to establish more of a brand here in Houston, being in the city for the first time, and then also working on becoming a brand outside of just the city. San Antonio, Austin are two of our other markets, and then we believe we can be much larger outside of just Texas.
Any other thoughts on stream teams?
Yeah, I've seen it go like to it. I mean, as far as like stream teams from orgs signing streamers, I think it's a brilliant way to grow the brand, like Herb just said, and all of that. When you're talking about stream teams, as far as like physically like setting up a team on Twitch or whatever and growing that, I've very rarely seen that work out for people that aren't the top 2 streamers on there. I think a lot of like quote unquote orgs that aren't like the big orgs just try to take advantage of kids to get free promotion, and then they'll say you can join my stream team and sign it, and they don't actually get anything out of it. So I think when it's done right, it can be beneficial when it's at the top level and you get these big streamers that can collaborate and pull numbers and grow an audience. Like that's amazing. But I've also seen kind of the back end for a lot of the mini influencers, the micro influencers who think they're joining something great, and then they just get used to do some free promotion for a little bit, and none of the top streamers ever talk about them, promote them, or give them airtime. So I don't know. I've seen it go both ways.
I'm going to take a different perspective and angle because the one thing that I would love to essentially see when it comes to the leagues bringing in talent for broadcast is I think that there needs to be essentially, I mean, granted, every broadcaster that's on every esports league is amazing, right? But I think that the companies need to figure out a way to start implementing some fresher faces and some newer faces and adding different perspectives to help keep the broadcast fresh. The same way that we see teams that are getting stream teams and they have different influencers in the streaming component who bring that personality to it. They may not be the top players or anything like that, but they bring personality, they bring entertainment. I think the same thing for when it comes to broadcast. I think it's so important that they start to find ways to integrate some additional faces, some new faces, in whether it's small content, it doesn't have to be live, it could be VODs, it could be anything like that. I mean, we saw how new faces for the Overwatch League, granted, everyone who's in the past Overwatch League broadcast, phenomenal, they're all great people. But we also saw a change in energy and content in the environment with some of these new faces that have been adding into the Overwatch broadcast. I think that, especially for these competitive scenes, I think that's something that will benefit the leagues and the growth of the leagues, is having these different analytical people, different personalities and different perspectives to keep it engaged, because broadcasts, of course, they have to be informative, but they also have to be entertaining as well. And these personalities have to be entertaining. And it's about balancing that and finding that nice balance. And how do we integrate more broadcasters and different faces into this scene? So I think that, the same way that the teams are utilizing those people to add another factor to their orgs, I think broadcasts and leagues on the broadcast side should do the same way, do the same thing, and figure out how to implement to keep them more engaged and to also grow, like these shows like Overwatch and Call of Duty on YouTube, right? YouTube is not the go-to place yet for gaming. but utilizing these different content creators and broadcasters, even if it's not for live, but for additional content, can help to bring more attention, to bring more numbers in and viewerships and subscriptions. So I think that ultimately you have to have the right people, but when you have the right people, and having the right formula can actually assist with developing your content brand, your content strategy, and overall growth of viewership.
Right, like you're saying, have that content, develop that relationship with the audience essentially, and kind of change it up, like you said. So questions, bring them in on Zoom or on LinkedIn. Feel free to post, and we'll try to get those answered as much as we can. We do have a question from Nicholas. What are your tips to get in contact with influencers for the companies with smaller budgets?
Well, as someone myself that's contacted by different companies, just for my influence, I would say is you should probably create a list of targeted influencers that would fit within your brand. I think it's so important that you need to research to make sure that that person is actually into your product, or is someone who actively uses it. So like I'm an AT&T influencer, and it made sense for AT&T to reach out to me to how to be an influencer because I've been an AT&T phone user my entire life. So it was natural to my life. I think it's important to have that. And then also, if you're trying to target certain people, I mean, have the people that you can reach and set like a specific number, whether they're micro influencers, nano influencers, and then obviously macro influencers. And the best way, honestly, a good amount of esports people, we do have like our reps or emails on our social media. That's the best way to contact us. Or if you engage with our content or engage with us, like there's some people that engage with me on social media or LinkedIn, and then they'll contact me later, and then I'll shoot it over to my agent. I think that just being prepared to have that conversation, understanding who the person is, the influencer is before you target them, and making sure that they are the best fit. Because there are times where influencers, they won't put so much focus on the money, but they'll put focus on the fact that they actually like the product and use it all the time, and then find a way to make it work. So it takes a lot of research, but once you do research, contact them, make sure you have the pitch ready, make sure you have it catered to that person, not just a generic email. I don't like generic emails. I feel like that's someone not taking the time. Also, make sure you have the person's name correctly. A lot of people think my name is Arena, but it's actually Aaron. The A is for my middle name, Ashley. And you have no idea how many emails I get where people just have my name incorrect.
Well, and then like on LinkedIn, I mean, it has the correct spelling. So just look at the spelling. Like I get a lot of CHs, I understand that CRIS is different, right? But it's like, could you just look at the, right up there, that's the name. And it's, I don't know, I'm glad you said those little things like that. But it's, so for example, like on the startup side, it's really the same thing. If you're working with startups, it's, the canned messages. Yeah, that's not going to hit home. Like that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it needs, like you said, be personalized, know who you're talking to versus copy paste and then blast it to 99 people. So I think being intentional with that's really important, and it's no different on the influencer side for brands that have smaller budgets. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to double down on what Aaron said as far as engaging in your content. People, kids, and brands probably don't realize how much, no matter how big you are, for the most part, influencers at least scroll their comments. Like we maybe don't read every single one, but we check. And if you're in 3 or 4 of my last videos, I promise I recognize your avatar. And so that's the best way that I know you're legit. And so if you engage with my audience and then leave a message sometime, and send me a DM on Instagram that's like, hey, I've been rocking with you for a while, love your content, this is what our mission is, I think it aligns well, let me know if you think so. That hits home, and I don't care if you have 100 followers or 1 million, like I'm at least gonna read it. And I think that's the biggest thing is you have to just engage and show that you're actually interested. And then the money part will come. I was actually talking about this when we went offline. So I just started this movement called Nerd. So Nerd is a brand that's all about taking back the word nerd and encouraging kids to be themselves. And part of, so 10% of everything we sell goes into a fund, as well as we have a monthly donation that you can sign up for. All that money goes into equipment costs for high schools to start esports programs. We just signed our 9th influencer. We have over 4 million followers combined with them, and I haven't paid a single one of them $1. Every single one of them just wanted to rock with it, and I just personally messaged them off of my Instagram account and was like, hey, love what you're doing, been following you for a while, this is what I'm doing, I think we align. I sent them a 1-page and in their email and said, read this and let me know if you like it, because if you don't, I don't want to work with it, because I'm not going to filter your content. As long as you agree with our message, I don't care what you post. And that's, yeah, we have people with over 1 million followers that I haven't paid $1 and that are not only posting about it, but resharing, talking to their friends about it, getting their parents to buy it. I had one do that. Like it's insane. So as long as you have the right message and you're authentic, it'll work. You don't need money.
I'd say there's a level of patience that Chris, you probably know, I've been talking about from the beginning. The message of, hey, do you want to collaborate and use my product, isn't going to get it done, you know. And Connor, as you know, I've talked to your crew about, you know, proper messaging and things on LinkedIn. There has to be a level of patience, because the reality is, I don't care what you send me in your first message. I know you want money and I know you want collaboration, but how you break down my initial barrier, what you throw at me, it's pretty simple for me. If you drop an SEC comment or an Ole Miss football comment, there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to respond, right? It's that simple. But, you know, and if you then, I mean, I wish I still had Herbert on my LinkedIn profile, because the guys that didn't take the time to know that I go by Herb or Herbie, and, you know, and would still call me Herbert, just means they didn't read past my initial profile. Or, you know, the same thing with Roundhill Investments. You know, Roundhill Investments, we did not invest privately, but everyone saw investments and they were like, didn't take the time to take the 30 seconds to know that we didn't do that. And they're like, hey, here's my deck. And I'm like, can't do anything with that. You're not public. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think everyone knows what everybody wants on LinkedIn. It's a professional platform. And I know that people want to come in and really it's about how you establish a relationship. It's about how you reach out. I mean, if someone responded yesterday and they were looking to collaborate, but they responded to my Marshall Yanda post, right? Who's like my favorite Baltimore Raven ever, at least one of them. And he retired yesterday, and be like, dude, I'm so excited. I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. I'm so excited to see Marshall Yanda out of the AFC North. You know, I see you're in esports, and like, it's that easy. It's literally that easy. Instead of being like, hey, I have a product that we can maximize your business by 40. Do you want to use it? I'm like, no, and I don't want to take the time to learn about it. So there's just that much happening in esports and gaming. And it's like, you just like, it doesn't have to be a long paragraph, it just has to be a different message. Like, just show that you took the time to, you know that I'm a Ravens fan, right? Instead of knowing that I work for the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah, it's like with any business.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Aaron. Go ahead.
Another thing too, I want to add, sorry, what they both said just sparked this in my mind. Another thing too is, I always tell people, you stand out more to me if you message me and it's about how can I help you, right? Most of the message I get is about getting someone on Cheddar Esports. What can I do for them? What can I do for them? What can I do for them? I've had people that have hit me up and literally were just like, you are doing a phenomenal job. I just want to help you, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't matter whichever part I was in my career, they're just like, how can I help you? Because you're doing a phenomenal job. I'm more likely to engage with that person because, granted, I know my job and my responsibility as media is to make sure that stories are told, perspectives are told, right? But I'm also human at the end of the day, and no one ever wants to feel like they're being used, right? And so I think that when you step out of yourself and you make it so that not only are you engaging with my content, engaging with me and understanding who I am as a person, but then also even the simplest thing as just messaging and being like, you know what, I see you growing. How can I help you? In what ways can I help you? And that opens up the doors, and it'll open up the doors sometimes even quicker, just because it's showing, like, you know, for me, it's like, wow, like I never get people telling me like how they can help me, right? And granted, I know that things have to be mutually beneficial in business. I get it. But even that person taking the step saying, how can I help you? That person will automatically stand out to me, and I will have a phone call with that person and set up a conversation with that person just because they went out of their way to do something for me, when most of the time people are contacting me about what I can do for them.
You know, it's fun, like, you know, Aaron, we talked about this the other day, right? Just about, you know, your LinkedIn presence is blowing up massively. And I actually remember when I discovered your content, I didn't really have anything for you, right? And I never had a thought to like reach out. Like I didn't think I was ready for Cheddar Esports or things like that. But I liked your comments, and I commented on your posts, and actually I like had a feeling we would eventually like meet organically, and then like we go to Minnesota and we end up having dinner just like out of the blue, right? So like I think sometimes with like and then now we have a much more organic and authentic relationship. I don't know if there's ever business to be done together between us, but like now at least I'm comfortable to like, if there ever something that jogs my reasoning to reach out to you, you'll respond, because I have never asked for like business up front. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think sometimes I know this industry is in this massive rush, but like if you can go off of that organic relationship first, and you can figure out a way to generate it, you can figure out a way, like whether it's a thoughtful comment, a note, someone supporting someone else's work, like your second reach out, which at the end of the day, if you're a seller, it takes 7 to 9 statistically to get a response. Like you'll narrow down that follow-up process to probably about 3 or 4, or, you'll just meet someone organically and end up, going to get burgers in Minnesota. Or desserts in areas.
I know. I love that. I think it reminds me of Steve Jobs' commencement speech that I love, where he talks about you can't connect the dots going forward, you can only connect them going backwards. And networking is the same way. You don't, if you go into a relationship, you can't go into a relationship expecting this is the next dot it's going to get me to. You got to go into it and just get to know the person, or make some sort of connection, because you don't, without an alternate agenda, just make sure you're laying down that foundation, and eventually you might be able to connect that backwards and get something out of it. But for now, it's just about networking.
And I think the number one question we get is how do you get involved in esports? And I always say relationships. Like that is my instant response, and it's a response people don't like because it's long term, right? It's not a transactional. It's not a okay, you're in. It's a longer term play. And as we know, society is very instant gratification. And they're just not keen to it, essentially. Not calling anybody out, but just throwing it out there.
I tell people 2 years. If they want to get into esports, I say you're going to commit the next 2 years to get into it.
I like that.
I agree with that. It took me about 2 years to establish myself from a media broadcast perspective.
Also, now to think about our stories here, I would hope we're on the same page, I guess, but relationships, that's why we're here together. Like this wouldn't be happening if we didn't have a relationship. Like the end, right?
Yeah, I don't like Chris, but I pretend to just so I can get ourselves.
Well, you know what I'm saying? I was just thinking, I'm like, well, that's what we're doing right now. Like this is relationships, right? That's why we're here right now talking about. We're talking about relationships because of relationships. So I think that's really important to kind of understand that, and then just and go do that. In your own way and be authentic, like you guys said. I think it makes a lot of sense on a number of different layers, and not be so transactional and be, long-term perspective.
Yeah, and occasionally grab burgers with each other.
Right. Yeah, and I had and going on Cheddar, like that was an amazing experience. You reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I was flattered, absolutely flattered to come on there on the show, and I appreciate you guys, and but it was I was
jealous. You Discorded me after that, and I was like, man, that's so cool.
So, and again, collaboration, working together, but it doesn't happen overnight, so I think it's just something to drive home for sure. So we are up against a little bit of the clock here. Last minute questions you want to throw in real quick? I might grab one. But any kind of last thoughts you guys have time to bow on all this? This has been an amazing conversation. I really could do it probably for a couple more hours, but it's been really cool. Is there anything you guys wanted to add as kind of last thoughts? I'm sure we've got a few.
Yes. I have one that's super, super important. If you're trying to get into the esports scene too, don't have your initial message be, hey, can I pick your brain? I think that's not the best way to go about it. And especially considering like, a lot of these people in the esports scene, or even people like us, like we spent time, we did research, we immersed ourselves in the events, we went to competitions, we went to panels, we started stuff ourselves. And to say, can I pick your brain? That's one that's robbing you of the experience that you could be building yourself and showing people, and you actively engage in the community and actively being a part of it. That's a crucial component to getting involved in this scene. And then two, you're asking for people who probably are knowledgeable about so many different aspects of esports to break it down into one hour conversation. That's not going to happen. So I would always suggest people, like, go message people in esports and say, can I pick your brain? And especially if you work for companies that are like financial companies and stuff like that, because it's kind of, or you're trying to pick their brain for, again, we all want to get information to help our brands and companies, but like actively having that be the first thing is not the best way to go. It's a turnoff, to be honest. I think that just taking the time to get to know the person is the better route, because then if you guys sit down for coffee, you'll organically have that conversation. But asking someone to take an hour or 30 minutes of their time to basically do borderline consultation for you is not the way to go. You have to actively immerse yourself, get involved, and then you have questions, then ask. But you got to put in the work yourself, because so many people in esports and gaming have put in the work, and they've been putting in the work when other people weren't even paying attention or were doubting them. So never just outright message someone and say, like, hey, can I pick your brain? That's one of my pet peeves that I just don't like.
Just so everyone knows, I'm the culprit of ruining that phrase. So sorry.
Thanks a lot.
You are the leech. Yeah, you made it past like the wall somehow.
I made it past the wall. There's no doubt about it that I made it past the wall. But I think that's more towards persistence, because I don't like to be told no. But I certainly ruined that phrase big time.
No, I like what Aaron said. Yeah, we did it. A lot of us made it through here against. I mean, it took parents not wanting us to do this, people doubting us, people cutting you off. Like, it took a lot to get here. And if you just approach it like, hey, I'm glad you went through those 5 years of work. Like, I just want to steal an hour of your time and try to like catch up on what you did. It's like, why would I? And we're all busy, man. We have so much going on that nothing is more bothering to me than if I take a phone call and I end it with, man, I just like lectured that guy for a half hour and like that was it. Like, that's so frustrating. That doesn't help me at all. That doesn't build a relationship. That was just me wasting my time.
And I would say, from somebody who, probably doesn't have the same careers as both of these awesome people, in this space, and you're looking to break in from an industry that's obviously different. I would say my best bet, and I think one of my, out of the numerous great qualities about me, my best one is that, I like to learn. I literally thrive off of never being the smartest person in the room. And literally it's one of my dad's things that he's instilled in me. Chris, am I allowed to swear on here?
Tone down.
You don't. So his phrase to me was always, "You don't know ish about ish," and like that's the way I should live my life. And it was never an insult. It was more just like, you literally, like, that's how you should walk into a meeting. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm talking about, something that no one knows more about the Baltimore Ravens than I do. But if someone sits across the table from me and tries to act that way, I'll let them, because I'd much rather be the person learning from somebody else. And that was in my case in setting up all these networking calls. And that's why I love this industry, because I know for a fact I am never, ever the smartest person in the room. So that humbles me to the sense that it doesn't matter who I'm sitting across from, doesn't matter how young they are, doesn't matter how old they are, doesn't matter how long they've been in the space. I know for a fact that I need to learn from that person. And that was my mindset coming in. Every single person I set up a call with, I knew for a fact was smarter than me. And that's how I acted. And that's quite honestly where I found a lot of my success when it comes from breaking in from not the esports industry.
Like selfish.
Yeah. And you can watch their esports too.
That's also true. It's all a shameless plug.
Yes, and selfishly, I don't know if you guys have done this, but I have people on my show so I can learn, like, because they have so much to give. Like, it's like selfishly, it's like, I want to know what you know, so please come on and talk. Like, that's, that mindset. So I think it's important. And then like Herbie was saying, being humble about it. It's like, I am not an expert. It's funny that people say, an esports expert. I think an esports expert hasn't even been created. It's some AI that's not even been created yet. It's some robot that hasn't been created yet, because a human being can't be everywhere, every second, knowing every detail of every 98 games around and all the scenes. It's impossible.
Expert is a dangerous word. It's just dangerous. I don't care who you are.
You know, so I think that's a great point you guys brought up there. Well, hey, we're up against the clock. I just want to say thank you guys for taking the time out of your all's busy schedule to do this. This was incredibly valuable, I think, on many levels for a lot of people. So I appreciate you guys doing this, being a part of this event. Thank you all very much for being on Zoom. Thank you very much for being on LinkedIn Live. A little bit of bootleg off the mobile phone for LinkedIn Live, but you know, you do what you got to do. Definitely would love to do this again. Let's not take a few months for that. Let's get together again. And I really appreciate you guys sharing your all's experiences. And I just want to say thank you all again for what you all do content wise. I really do appreciate it. I know a lot of other people really appreciate it as well. And this is what's going to drive, content is king. It's going to drive the space, whether it's on the business side or what in the team side, whatever. It's just going to be really fascinating to see what happens this year and on. So I really appreciate you guys.
For sure.
Thank you.
Go out.
Thanks for the invite, Chris, man. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
Yeah, see ya.
You have a good one.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jason.
Still have a few people in here. All right. Dirk, let's go ahead and kill the feed at this point. I think we're good.